Well, this is what the Democrats were up to today, annoying everyone on C-SPAN.
Looking for answers on our way. Scientists, doctors, students,
Yep, as some Democrats are having a meltdown and a crying fest because of Donald Trump's foreign policy that clearly is extremely active today, as there's so many updates regarding Iran, Gaza, South Africa, Ukraine, Russia, that of course I just wanted to do one video talking about the latest, craziest developments happening right now in just one video. So this is not going to be a video that's focused on one issue. It's going to be focused on all the breaking news issues right now because it's too difficult to choose one of the topics that I want to talk about. So I want to give you a holistic kind of larger perspective with everything that's happening right now. And of course, there never is a shortage of news in 2025. As of course, if you like this video, if this video does well, we're going to do more of them, specifically just condensing all of the news in one particular video. As Justin Trudeau and the Canadians are crying their eyes out, getting rid of Americanos from their coffee shops, as well as American products that they have already bought that they're deciding to boycott, as Donald Trump put in a larger threat against tariffs and then postponed it for a month, as now the Canadians are reeling, trying to decide what to do, as everyone still is asking the question, hey, where's those Epstein client files? As that still has been a major stain on the Attorney General of the United States that has yet to provide us any kind of legitimate information surrounding this entire saga, as the last we heard of this is that she got a truckload of documents from the FBI and that she will be redacting some of them for national security, having everyone kind of ask the question, national security? What? How? What? Why? As other people are saying, hold on, where's the JFK files? We were supposed to get those. We never got the JFK, RFK, and MLK files, as we are still all here waiting very patiently, trying to find out what has really been happening behind the shadowy, secretive realms of government, as Donald Trump also, next week, in a few days from now, will be getting a special report on the assassination attempts on his life, which he signaled could be suspicious, as he also said, I might be making these disclosures public, I might not, also because of national security. Now, what in the world is happening with national security? As I think there might be a larger connection with Iran here that is very troubling, because if you remember, as soon as the assassination attempts happened, the first one in Butler, Pennsylvania, there was some news organization saying it could be Iran. We saw a lot of scuttlebutt. We saw a lot of hacking attempts. We saw a lot of the framing of the conversation specifically being centered towards Iran. And when Donald Trump's going to be getting his report, it's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be a report exposing the kind of intelligence failures here, the security failures here, and pointing blame within the darker, more shadowy, more sinister, corrupt elements of government, or if it's going to shift all the blame on Iran. It looks like right now there might be a bigger potential for that, as we have some very kind of mysterious statements from Donald Trump about Iran, signaling a larger kind of geopolitical move against them in the upcoming future. Here's what Donald Trump just had to say a few moments ago.
It did start. I mean, think of what happened. Inflation, you have the war with Ukraine and Russia, that wouldn't have happened. October 7th would have never happened. Israel, they had no money. Iran had no money. Iran was stone cold broke, and now they have a lot of money. But then that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran. What's going to happen with Iran? And there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. Can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020.
Now, what will be happening here, as there still is a concerted push by the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Lindsey Graham, that are still pushing and propelling for a larger conflict with Iran, which we know the Prime Minister of Israel really wants to happen. Now, is there going to be a certain situation where potentially, this is where my conspiracy mind is going to, of course, with my kind of extrapolations and me kind of guessing here, but there could be a larger possibility that Donald Trump's assassination report might include Iran, and then Iran is also in the midst of a lot of very serious talks with the United States, as there could be a larger deal that is done with them, along with Russia, that would be involved in it, as now it looks like Donald Trump is trying to get Russia to the negotiations table, as he just announced that he's considering pulling 35,000 U.S. troops from Germany and redeploying them to Eastern Europe, according to The Telegraph, in a move that does signal some larger, sharper turns against the Russians, as we also have the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni coming out and saying that she wants Ukraine to be granted security by NATO, including Article 5 protection, without actually joining the membership of NATO, which again would skirt around a big Russian red line and essentially be a larger deal breaker for the Russians here that look like they are reluctantly not coming to the negotiations table. As today, Donald Trump also announced that he could potentially be issuing more sanctions against the Russians that are launching very aggressive military maneuvers on the Ukrainians that no longer are able to use some of their advanced missile systems because the United States stopped sharing intelligence with them. Now, what will happen here? Well, Donald Trump just announced that he actually trusts Putin and Zelensky here to come to an agreement. He says that Zelensky has been difficult to work with, and he's the one that, of course, is the one that is rejecting a lot of the larger peace maneuvers being made here. This is according to Donald Trump.
President Putin is bombing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you still believe him when he tells you that he wants peace?
You know, I believe him. I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't.
Yep, as Donald Trump then went on, as of course there's still other larger moves regarding South Africa, regarding Columbia University inside of the United States. But before telling you about that, we want to tell you about thebestpoliticalshirts.com. As of course, this is one of the sure ways to get a lot of important messages out there to the general public. Do your own lazy form of activism, but more importantly, just get active and engaged here in the conversation. I mean, right now we're living in such a key, critical time that the partnerships, the relationships you make are critically important, not just to your social life. I mean, having a good social life, having a good kind of clique and circle of friends around you, super key, super important. If you look at a lot of the blue zones where people live up to 100 years long, one of the things that is always kind of universal, it's not the diet. It's not always kind of habits, although they do walk a lot, specifically uphill and downhill. But most importantly, a sense of community, people being there for each other, watching out, looking out for each other. And I want to help you do that. One of the best ways to meet new people is through having a pretty intense message on your shirt, and then having people who resonate with it come up to you and say, yo, that's a pretty cool shirt. I like it. I agree with you. I like the message. I support you. And I get a lot of that from wearing the shirts that I'm wearing right now, like the one that reads, "The media is the virus." It was a big hit in 2021, 2022. You want to find it? Go to thebestpoliticalshirts.com and you type in media in the search here, and then the shirt pops right up, and then you're able to, of course, get it. We got a lot of great ones. But again, come in here, click media, click on the shirt. It might not be up. It'll be up in just a few minutes from now. Just a heads up there, as we, of course, do our best to fix the store here, as there's still a lot to talk about when it comes to foreign policy, specifically with what we just saw Donald Trump announce regarding South Africa, as he described that it is being terrible to farmers in that country, specifically white farmers that are facing an extreme amount of discriminatory laws and policies that are being absolutely racist to them, as he has announced that he is going to be offering South African farmers who are fleeing the country for safety to be invited to the United States, as he is going to be giving them a rapid pathway towards citizenship. As we know, the South African saga is absolutely tumultuous, to say the least. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of bloodshed, not just between the local populations, but the British and the Afrikaans and the Dutch. It's so much insanity here, but it's pretty clear that South Africa is headed towards in a very bad direction, especially since, they're having a lot of problems with their energy resources, with their water, with their natural resources. Overall, South Africa is dealing with extraordinary pressures. And then politically, inside of the country, you literally have politicians that are calling for the stealing of land without compensation just against white people, which the New York Times just says, oh, it's a false claim. Donald Trump claims South Africa is going to be going after land seizures. It's false. There's literal video of South African politicians announcing that it's going to be happening. So, again, New York Times has a long history of covering up a lot of atrocities, including the things like, the Holodomor that they lied to the world about. Again, awful reputation of the New York Times there that in many times throughout recorded human history has obfuscated, covered up major kind of human atrocities that they tried to hide from the world. One of the biggest ones that they're hiding is, of course, what's happening there in South Africa, which really is a tragic, horrible situation that is not good for everyone all around us. Of course, when we have a minority of a white population getting discriminated against for some reason, no one seems to give a damn, which is absolutely crazy. We also, a couple moments ago, had the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced that she has identified 2 individuals that were leaking ICE raid information that now will be referred to the DOJ and face felony prosecution, as there are individuals within our own government that were literally trying to prevent the capture and seizure of criminal gangs, organizations, and people who have violated the law within the United States. Now, clearly, having open immigration is something that the United States no longer is doing. Europe is still doing it. And now it looks like finally we are getting some justice on this, as Donald Trump also made some very interesting statements surrounding Derek Chauvin, the police officer involved in the George Floyd incident, that a lot of people kind of question whether or not he was politically prosecuted. I think it's fair. He has been politically prosecuted, as his statements now, with Trump saying that he might actually pardon Derek Chauvin, could spur up a new summer of love and potential BLM riots that a lot of people are on the lookout for. But when you start looking into this particular case here, it definitely does seem like a lot of people were pressured to make a move that wasn't the best judicial move to be made here, as some people are calling for a retrial. Ben Shapiro recently did a whole extensive video about this, and the conversation has definitely begun with something that potentially could start off more riots and protests, as there are already a lot of protests happening at Columbia University, specifically against, quote, our greatest ally, as Donald Trump just announced with the White House Twitter account, quote, Shalom Columbia. The Trump administration and task force to, quote, combat anti-Semitism has canceled $400 million in federal grants to Columbia over its failure to, quote, protect Jewish students and anti-Semitic harassments. Now, I don't know about any of these kind of allegations, if they actually happen to some of the students, if there actually are some documented incidences, as a lot of people are saying, if we're going to cut funding to the universities, we should cut funding to all of them. And just because we have people that might be politically opposed towards certain ideas or express certain opinions that we might not like, that might not be the best thing to, of course, cut people off. Now, I think everyone should be cut off. Personally, myself, you look at these universities, you look at these institutions, they are a woke mind virus factory that absolutely puts our students and young people at a huge disadvantage while robbing them of their wealth. A lot of these top universities have endowments. A lot of these top universities have money up the wazoo, but they still, because of government subsidies, keep raising the price of tuition. And again, you look at healthcare, and if you look at college, some of the things that the government has been investing the most amount of money in and resources in, for some reason, all of those things keep going up in price. You look at all these other institutions that aren't subsidized, that the government is inputting money in, and a lot of the times with the free market, cost of those services usually goes down. You would think in this new kind of day and age where we have knowledge and information at our fingertips, we would have a larger decentralized effort towards being in a new world where we don't need these kind of archaic regurgitation, mind-controlled crap universities that indebt our children. But again, Donald Trump made a very big political move here, and a lot of people are going to, of course, be saying that this is just because of clear politicking and not because of doing the right and wrong thing. That's the overall consensus here, and seeing this kind of larger message here, I wish this message would just be reiterated in a way where we cut off all universities, because I think that needs to be done, unless they are, of course, done in a very kind of specific niche kind of educational field that we need to propel in, because there are some kind of institutions of learning that are absolutely necessary for our society to continue. As we're talking about specific jobs in engineering, specific jobs with, the medical industry. I was going to say that, but that industry has been bastardized and absolutely just destroyed. I was going to say the legal field, but again, the legal field, absolutely bastardized industry that I would argue isn't doing anyone any kind of legitimate favors there. We definitely need to kind of hone in, and I think what we're seeing right now is a larger restructuring of our society here. And during this kind of restructuring, there's going to be a lot of changes, there's going to be a lot of ebbs, there's going to be a lot of flows, and as you can see from today's videos, lots of things happen in very condensed, short periods of times. I could have done a video on each of these topics individually. Maybe I should have. But if you like this specific format, like this video, share it, get it out there to the general public, and if the views are well here, I'll keep doing them every single day on top of all the other content that I do anyway here on this YouTube channel, as I've been working my butt off getting our voice out there as fast and as wide as we can. Again, thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Got a lot of really great ones up here that will definitely give you a laugh, make you chuckle. Get the shirts right now, thebestpoliticalshirts.com. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more, all here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange.